It's good to be back. You mentioned 22 years. I've been reflecting this week on my journey in ministry and my time at Unity Village. I was there for 2 years training to become a minister, and then another year working for headquarters. And Thursday marks my anniversary of ordination for 22 years ago. So I was 12, right? I wish. Where did those years go by, right? But I was thinking about the beauty of the grounds at Unity Village, which is just outside of Kansas City, and it's a 1,200-acre campus it's just gorgeous with fountains and a beautiful rose garden that's won awards and a labyrinth and hiking trails. And it's just a beautiful sacred space to go on retreat and to grow spiritually. And I was thinking specifically about the trees that line the fountains just outside of the Ministerial Education Building. And those trees are just big and beautiful. And every so often, the grounds crew comes along and they prune off the trees at the appropriate time, and they leave these big, gnarly stumps of branches. They look really gnarly. And I thought, what a great symbol of the abundance of the universe that we live in, because when we look at those, we see it in all its disguises as well as its glory. When we look at those stumps of trees, we think, surely that will never flourish again. Surely, it will never thrive and grow back to life. And there's all this doubt and worry and concern. But sure enough, just nature responds. That life energy within those trees comes forth and turns into these gorgeous, full trees again. And life is like that, isn't it? Sometimes it's a little bit gnarly. And I don't mean that in the cool dude, gnarly, excellent way. That's not what I mean. I mean it in those times when life doesn't look pleasant. When we're looking at the appearances of our life and it's not pleasant and it's really uncomfortable, painful, you name it, those gnarly moments. And if we focus on just the appearances in those moments, it can feel rather hopeless at times. It can feel there's a lot of doubt and worry and despair. I mean, think about those challenging times. Am I the only one who goes to the worry and fear? Anyone else here? Yeah, it's called being human, right? It's our humanness. Our brains are wired to go there, to the worry, doubt, and fear. And I can't tell you how many times I've laughed at myself saying, yep, another worry wasted, because it can expend so much of our energy worrying about those things that are in front of us, those challenges. But life is so much more than that. God, that ever-present, infinite love, that infinite substance through all that is so much more than the circumstances and conditions of our lives. Way more than the circumstances and conditions of our lives. And we have to really refocus on that first basic principle in unity, that there is one presence and one power active in our lives and in the universe, God the good. And that good is everywhere present. That universal substance is everywhere present, flowing in and through all. The mistake we make, though, is often when we face those difficult times, those challenging times, is how we see the situation, right? Our mind makes up a whole bunch of stories about how things are in our worry, in our fear. And it's that perspective that can get in our way when we're just looking at what's right in front of us rather than the bigger spiritual picture. So I love that passage in Luke chapter 12, verses 22 through 32, that is actually titled, Do Not Worry. If you'll bring that up, that Jesus is giving us a master teaching in this passage. He said to his disciples, therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or about your body, what you will wear. For life is more than food, and the body more than clothing. Consider the ravens. They neither sow nor reap. They neither have storehouse nor barn, and yet God feeds them. Of how much more value are you than the birds? And can any of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your span of life? If then you're not able to do a small thing as that, why do you worry about the rest? Consider the lilies, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not clothed like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass of the field, which is alive today and tomorrow is thrown in the oven, how much more will he clothe you, O you of little faith? And do not keep striving for what you are to eat and what you are to drink, and do not keep worrying, for it's the nations of the world that strive after all these things, and your Father knows you need them. Instead, strive for his kingdom, and these things will be given to you as well. Big prosperity teaching there, right? I mean, we can take it literally and get a whole bunch from it, but we can also look at that passage metaphysically. Jesus is walking us through the states of consciousness that we go through in our being on our way to really embodying that prosperity consciousness, that consciousness of abundance. He's saying, hey, you don't need to hold on to and cling to all those things of our lives that are impermanent, right? Those things that we hold on to. Life is so much more than that, and nature is showing us, just as we did in the beautiful meditation. Thank you for that, Steve, because life is so much more, and it's demonstrating for us that an infinite substance of life there. And so he's saying in that passage, strive for the connection with spirit. Strive first for that kingdom within. Strive first for the divine inspiration. Strive first for our true expression of God, if you will. And he's reminding us that that divine life energy is within and around us, right here, right now, available to us, unfailing, always. It's our inner resourcefulness. It's our divine ideas, it's our receptivity, it's our strength, it's our love, it's our awareness, it's our creativity, it's our power, it's our receptivity, it's all of those spiritual gifts that flow through us. And then out from those gifts comes the demonstration in our lives. It's ever flowing. Life is so much more than what's right in front of us, the things that we get attached to, the things and the people and the way, how we get attached to the way things are and were, and all those different attachments. So much more than that. So he's challenging us in that passage to change our point of view, to really shift our thinking, to shift our perspective. And he's showing us how nature is demonstrating that for us so beautifully, so effortlessly, just showing us how to grow and evolve and change and blossom and bring forth our best. So how do we shift our consciousness from the fear and the doubt and the worry to abundance and prosperity? I want to offer us 3 spiritual practices this week. Striving for connection, for spirit first, strive first for that kingdom. Second is to bless the flow, the power of gratitude, right? And the third is to stay in the flow of giving and receiving. That means action on our part, really acting in a way that gives and receives. So let's talk about those one at a time here. Striving for connection. Nothing gets in the way more of our connection with spirit than those limiting beliefs, and all the chatter in our minds, right? It gets in our way. It can really get loud and be so noisy that it crowds out that connection with spirit. So striving for that. It's all those, stinking thinking, all those thoughts that are not our highest truth. And it's hard to tame them sometimes. This spring, I've been going through a in prosperity intensive with one of my teachers and studying Wallace Wattles' teachings on prosperity, which is sort of an old-time author. And I've gotten so much out of it. And one of the things that he says in that book about the work and how hard it is, he says, to think according to appearances is easy. To think regardless of appearances is laborious and requires an expenditure of more power than any other work a person has to perform. There's no labor from which most people shrink as they do from that of sustained consecutive thought. It's the hardest work in the world. This is especially true when the truth is contrary to appearances. Amen to that, huh? It's hard work. Working with our thoughts. They can get really busy in there. And yet, that's really the third basic principle in unity is the law of mind action, that our thoughts and our feelings and our beliefs create our experience. And so working with them, becoming the gardeners of our thoughts, if you will. Planting those healthy seeds through whatever way works for us of those life-affirming thoughts. Whether it's meditation or prayer or being in nature, journaling, podcasts, reading inspirational material, all of those things that plant those healthy seeds in our mind and hearts, that's the work of striving for that connection, right? And then weeding. We got to do the weeding too. Weed out those thoughts, shift our attention away from those weeds that stop our growth and get in the way of our growth. And really, and even negativity of people around us that poo-poo our dreams or whatever, are not supporting the direction we want to move. Weeding out to create the space for that growth and prosperity and abundance. That's the big work. That's, remembering that God is our source and supply. That's the big work of striving for connection first. And then we bless the flow, right? We bless the flow in our lives. And that's everything that flows into our lives. The good and the more challenging. I bless this situation because it allows me to see that which needs to be healed. And when we bless something, we're calling it sacred, aren't we? We're making it kind of holy. Blessing everything that comes into our lives and being grateful for it. Also, it's about paying attention to the little synchronicities that happen in our lives. Those little God moments throughout every day, and really giving thanks for them. Noticing them, first of all, pausing to notice them and being grateful for them. Yesterday, I had a beautiful experience right after I was thinking about my ordination and was working on this talk and things and reflecting on my ministerial journey. I walked out to my mailbox and opened up a letter from one of my clients, and my client was just, sending me a check. And how sometimes when you send a check in the mail, I know we don't do that very much anymore, but when you send a check in the mail, you put a piece of paper around it so that it doesn't look so much like a check. Well, the paper that my client put around it was lyrics to a song. And I started looking at the lyrics and reading them, and I was so moved because I had just been thinking about my ordination, and the lyrics of the song were the song that my class sang together during our ordination ceremony. Okay, that choked me up. It was just those synchronistic moments, paying attention to those God moments and being grateful for every single one of them. That opens us up to the abundance and prosperity of our lives. And then, of course, one other thing about gratitude that I want to share. Wallace Wattles says, the whole process of mental adjustment and attunement can be summed up in one word: gratitude. Think of how gratitude just opens us up and pushes out all those other lesser thoughts that hold us back. When we're grateful, there's not a whole lot of space for the self-doubt and the worry and all of the other things that get in our way. It connects us to spirit. And then we can stay in the flow of giving and receiving through our actions, right? We have to get out there and act from that place of spirit, take action from that place of spirit. Waddles, one of the other things he says, and I love this quote, "The very best thing you can do for the whole world is to make the most of yourself." Isn't that beautiful? The best thing we can do for the whole world is to make the most of ourselves. And I just heard a few of you saying, well, what does it mean to make the most of ourselves, right? I would challenge us that it's different for every single person in every moment. Like, what's the making the most of myself in this moment, and this moment, and this moment? Maybe one moment it's offering compassion and understanding to a friend. Maybe another moment it's receiving support from a neighbor or a family member. Maybe another moment it's really doing our work in the world with enthusiasm and joy. And another moment it might be just taking rest and renewing. All of those things make the most of ourselves at different times, don't they? And finding out what is it in this moment that will make the most of myself and yourself. Asking and living in that question. Well, no matter what the action is, it's about living in the flow of giving and receiving, staying in that flow. I was thinking about that flow, and a lot of you know that I love camping and hiking, and I'm gearing up for campfire season right now and getting out to camp some. And I was thinking about what a great metaphor campfires are for that law of circulation and giving and receiving, because we can't just go to a campfire and say, hey, give me heat, cook my dinner, make me s'mores. You can't do that, right? You have to go and give it tender, and you have to give it kindling and light a match and give it wood and nurture it and tend to it, right? And nurture that flame. And then we receive that warmth, that heat, that light, if you will, the light grows, and the sweetness comes from that too, whatever the sweetness of the moment is. And so it is with our lives. We have to give to it and give and tend to it, and it returns back. It comes back to us and warms our heart in so many ways. Now, some of us are better givers than receivers, right? and we can block the flow by not receiving. We can really block that flow. And I'm going to use another metaphor here of the ocean of life, right? If we are immersed in this lavishly abundant universe, and we're in the ocean of life, if you will, the ocean of that God energy, if we go to the ocean of life and say, please just give me a cup of this prosperity, whatever the prosperity is at the moment, and we're doubting that we will receive, we end up going to the ocean with a teaspoon, right? And we say, okay, I'd love a teaspoon, please, and we get a teaspoon. Or we can go with a bucket, and our bucket can be filled. But how about if we walk into the ocean and allow that ocean of God energy to support us? What if we wade out there into the ocean of life and trust in the universe, in that universal love that is always there for us? How would that be? Pretty magnificent. So what will help us wade out into the ocean of life and let it support us? I want to close with some words of Charles Fillmore, our co-founder in Unity. He says, when we think about the love of God drawing to us the substance necessary for support and supply, that substance begins to accumulate all around us, and we abide in the consciousness of it, and it begins to manifest itself in all our affairs. Yeah, so life is so much more than the circumstances and conditions of our lives. We can go abide in that consciousness of God and allow ourselves to be supported by that infinite good, that infinite love that supports us always. So let's go out there this week and strive for connection. Let's bless the flow, practice that deep gratitude for all the little things in our lives, and let's take action to stay in the flow of giving and receiving and experience the lavish abundance of our lives. And so it is.